I was astonished, actually. I honestly did not think that Britain would vote to leave the European Union. I thought Project Fear or the machine of state would persuade enough people to remain within the European Union, and and in fact it would be fairly close. But I thought that Remain would win, and I was astonished that Leave won. Actually, delighted actually. For two reasons. I voted to leave because of the primacy of our British Parliament. I mean, who makes our laws should be the people we elect at a general election, and who interprets those laws should be the judges within this country, not from outside this country. And those are the two main reasons why I voted to leave. And they're pretty fundamental in my belief, whether you are a sovereign nation or not. My personal story would be that I think what the referendum being called did for the country is it suddenly got people engaged in political discourse and debate. And I think certainly at work, with friends and colleagues, people had an opinion, of sometimes quite strong opinions. And that's actually quite exciting, quite engaging. For too long, people said people aren't engaged in politics, people don't have an opinion, people are blasé. And actually what this has done has forced people to take a stand, to take an opinion, and to consider their views, hopefully, consider both sides of views, and come to a view which they are happy with. So for me it's quite exciting actually that we've had this process, and bodes well for politics going forward. Already we see at the general election, hopefully, or the forthcoming general election in 2022, if it's that far away, we're going to see some politics which are quite perhaps more extreme than or from different sides than what we are used to. So less of a consensus, more of a debate, more of a kind of proper debate about how the country is going to move forward in the future. And that's quite exciting. I think the result has changed how I see the UK and its place in the world. I think it actually shows us that we have the courage to stand up for our own beliefs as a nation, and can hopefully chart a positive, optimistic view of our relationship with the rest of the world going forward. I think this is a tremendous opportunity to engage properly with the whole world rather than just Europe. Although Europe's very important and will continue to be important. You know, this is not a vote against Europe as a whole. Maybe being within the European Union, yes, but actually we still will be friends and partners with our European friends, and of course we've still got to be able to trade with Europe and do business as well with the rest of the world. It's a fantastic opportunity and very, very exciting for the country, I think. The falling pound and the forecasts, or various forecasts of economic slowdown, are interesting. I think the fall in the pound has certainly been marked since the referendum result. That's been potentially very, very good for manufacturers, less good for importers and the goods that we import from the rest of Europe, certainly, and the rest of the world in some cases. It'll be a bit of a mixed bag. I think we haven't yet seen it feed through into inflation. So again, those price rises haven't really begun to kind of feed in a big way into the economy yet, and I think it's tantamount to the kind of the strength of the British economy, that actually, okay, growth has maybe slowed, although recently it has kind of picked up again. But I think that's to be expected. Business confidence has probably taken a little bit of a knock. There's a bit of uncertainty out there, but actually I think going forward, I'm tremendously optimistic about what we can do with the British economy going forward, in the right hands with the right government in charge, of course, who can perhaps create better pro-growth policies, better kind of interventions in the economy to create growth and create the conditions that businesses can have the confidence to invest in the future. So I'm optimistic, basically. I mean, I voted to leave the European Union. Honestly, I've not had second thoughts about my decision to leave. I have, though, obviously listened to other sides of the argument and made sure that what I believe and things I've heard kind of tallies up, and I can kind of square it away, essentially, with what some of the arguments for remaining were. I honestly believe that it's a fantastic opportunity for the country, a fantastic opportunity for people in the country as well. We still be open. It's not about turning our back on the world. Certainly not about turning back on Europe. It's about being a positive, vibrant, dynamic member of the world community, and that's very, very exciting. There has been some division created by the referendum result and the ongoing debate about what Brexit should look like. But actually, I think once we've left and once people see that it wasn't as bad as perhaps it's been portrayed in certain parts of the media, I think people will kind of rally around and actually get back to a normal political discourse. So we'll see people falling into the respective political parties again, and that's a good thing actually, because one thing I think that perhaps being a member of the European Union has done is blunted some of those opportunities, some of those options that certain political parties could pursue if they were elected. So if you were a Labour supporter, for example, and you voted for Jeremy Corbyn, he couldn't nationalise the railways now. That's against European Union rules. There are certain things which he couldn't do, and that means, so if you're a traditional Labour supporter or support left-wing parties on mainland Europe, you've had a really hard time over the last 10 years, I would have thought, because since the financial crisis, Europe has kind of stifled, and we've seen the share of left-wing parties' votes in Europe decline, and the rise of parties on the extreme of both political spectrums, and that's not a good thing. So what we want to do is, in this country, once we've left, I think it will create more of a opportunity to people to kind of coalesce again around the centre ground, hopefully, and we'll see a bit more kind of politics, a bit more opportunity for people to pursue potential policies which are good for the country, and we're going to see a bit more, hopefully, a bit more variety amongst policies from different parties, and that's exciting, I think, as well. One word to sum up how I feel about Brexit, I think it's opportunity. It's an opportunity for the country to come together, hopefully in the future. It's an opportunity for us to trade more freely with our European friends and the world, and open up markets for third world countries, and so certainly in Africa and in the Asian subcontinent, where they have perhaps, because of Europe is a closed economic shop, and there's huge tariffs that discourage trade between Africa into Europe, we can really engage with developing and creating and building up countries in Africa in a more kind of a more sustainable way, rather than just farming out aid and seeing and creating conditions for migrant crisis and war and famine and all that other stuff. So trade, development, economic progress is what Africa needs, and honestly, I see this is a great opportunity that Britain can pursue here in trading freely with those countries in Africa who need trade to lift them up out of poverty. Allowing young people to still work within Europe is hopefully something that can be kind of negotiated going forward. I think certainly in this country we value people coming in from all 27 countries coming to work in the UK, whether for a very short period of time or whether for something a bit longer. That's great, and that's exactly what we should encourage, and hopefully going forward there can be a mechanism, there can be a solution where actually it isn't as difficult as it potentially could be. Maybe not quite as easy as it is now, that's obviously going to be the case, but hopefully something where there is still a kind of exchange of ideas and people. That's very, very important. As I said, we're leaving the European Union. I don't think we should leave Europe, and you guys are our friends as well, so, and that's very, very important. And of course, hopefully young Brits can of course go and work in America for a short period of time, and go and work in the rest of the world as well. So it's a great opportunity to see the rest of the world as well, but hopefully the barriers that are potentially erected in Europe are very, very small, because I don't foresee Britain wanting to put up huge barriers for people from Europe wanting to come and work in the UK. I can't see that happening as well. So hopefully sense will prevail, and it will be sorted out. I think something I'd like to add on this whole Brexit process, we've had the referendum probably over 2 years ago now, I think, since we actually had the referendum, and I think we seem to get a lot of rerun from certain politicians, certain media organisations, about the possibility of rerunning the referendum, and I think that would be a very bad thing. We've essentially had three votes so far on this Brexit. First of all was David Cameron's election victory, where he promised the people of Britain a referendum. I think UKIP voters perhaps peeled off from UKIP at that election and voted Conservative and gave him that majority, and winning that election, which he didn't expect to win. I think he expected to be in another coalition with the Liberal Democrats, so he wouldn't have to honour the Brexit referendum commitment. So we've already had that commitment. We've of course had the Brexit referendum. We know the result on that, a massive kind of amount of people voting in that referendum, and that result was quite clear. And of course we've had an election since, where all the two main political parties, both Labour and Conservative, have campaigned on a platform of honouring the Brexit referendum results, and the only party who voted had a very strong Remain or calling for a second referendum with the Liberal Democrats, who failed dismally in that election. So I think we've had the referendum run. We need to move on now, draw a line underneath it, and what we need to do now is come together and actually work out what's best for the country now, work out what deal is best for the country. My view is we should go for, we need to be, a Canada Plus option seems to be the best option so far, where we honour the results and the will of the people at the referendum. But that gives opportunities for other political parties to, again, as I said before, to formulate policies at the next election for the benefit of the country as a whole, and hopefully some quite exciting radical policies. And that's good for political discourse, that's good for the country, and that's good, hopefully, ultimately, for Europe as well.